lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, condemned, worshipper, lover of living, condemned, worshiper, lover is living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, lover is there, condemned, worshipper, lover of living, ours is no caravan, lover is living. Come yet again, come.
Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and we're glad you're here and that you've made Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation a part of this day in your spiritual life. Whether you are here for the first time or you've been tuning in or coming to Beacon in Flagstaff for many years, we welcome you. Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation sits at the base of the San Francisco Peaks on homelands sacred to Native Americans throughout the region. We honor their past, present, and future generations who have lived here for millennia and will forever call this place home. I am so proud of what our congregation stands for and how we have remained connected and committed during the pandemic. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome, and we will also marry you here most happily. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door, and here we trust that you will find a common ground for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration in a framework that is unique and has very flexible boundaries. Membership in our congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, please join me in the response words you will see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our inner connection. Our mission and covenant express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community in the world. Please join me in saying the mission and covenant. You will see the words on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant.
Oh,
Now is the time in our service when you're invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the virtual supportive presence of this beloved community. You'll have some silence in which to ponder and reflect your joys and sorrows, and then there will be a video with some meditative breathing. And at that point, I invite you into some intentional breath. 4 beats in slowly through your nose, 5 or 6 beats out slowly through your mouth in a steady stream, creating spaciousness from the crown of your head, down your body, to your feet that are rooted to the ground. Remember that your breath is always with you, and through intentional breathing, it brings emotional, spiritual, and psychological first aid. As we go into this quiet meditative time, let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. And may we have hope. We've carried this stone with us all through the pandemic. May we hold on to hope for ourselves, for our families, for our community, for the planet. Our reading for January 9th, 2022 is an amusing reflection by Robert Fulghum called Cuckoo Clock. And he writes, always wanted a cuckoo clock, a big Baroque German job with all kinds of carved fubas and a little bird that leaps out once an hour and hollers an existential comment on life. So I got one for my best friend, who also happens to be my wife and lives in the same house as me. See, the way this deal works is that she usually doesn't really like what I give her for Christmas anyway, and I usually end up with it in the end. So I figured I might as well start out by giving her something that I want in the first place. So when I get it back, I'm truly grateful. She gets the thought, I get the gift. I know it's wicked, but it's realistic and practical. And don't get high-minded about this as if you never thought of doing such a thing. The hell you say. I've been around. I know what I know. Anyway, I wanted an authentic antique cuckoo clock, but they cost a bundle. And the store had new ones, overstocked, a special cheap price, a hot deal. So I bought one. There were 2 messages written in small print on the carton, which I missed somehow. Made in South Korea was one, and some assembly required was the other. The carton produced 5 plastic bags of miscellaneous parts and an Earthsop Bavarian alpine goat herd hut marked genuine simulated wood. And to top it off, a plastic deer head that looked like Bambi's mother. I put it all together with no parts left over, thank you very much, and I hung it on the wall. Pulled down the weights, pushed the pendulum, and stepped back. It ticked and it talked in a comforting kind of way. Never before had an enterprise gone quite so well for me. The darn thing actually worked. The hour struck, the little door opened, the little bird did not come out, but from deep in its little hole came a raspy, muffled cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. 3 cuckoos, that's it? That's all? But the clocks on the hands on the clock said noon. I peered deep into the innards of the Bavarian alpine goat herd of simulated wood. There was the bird. Using an ice pick and a chopstick, I tried to pry the creature forward. It seemed loose. I reset the clock to 3. The clock ticked and talked and then clanged. The door flung open. No bird. Out of the darkness at the back of the hut came a kook, but no oo, not even an ah, just kook. Applying the principle is of if it doesn't move, force it. I restored to a rubber mallet and a coat hanger, followed by vigorous shaking. Reset the clock, hour struck, door opened, silence. Close inspection revealed a small corpse with a spring around its neck lying on its side. Not many people have murdered a cuckoo clock bird, but I had done it. I could see Christmas morning, here, dear, a cuckoo clock for you. The bird is dead. And I did. I gave her the clock and told her the story, and she laughed and laughed. And she kept the clock too, dead bird and all, for a while. The clock and the bird are long gone from our house now, and Christmas has come and gone many times as well. But the story gets told every year when we gather with friends. They laugh, and my wife looks at me and grins her grin, and I grin back. She reminds me that the real cuckoo bird in the deal was not the critter in the clock at all. I remember. And me, well, I still don't have a cuckoo clock of my own, but I have kept something. It's the memory of the message written on the packing carton. It said, some assembly required. To assemble the best that is within you and give it away, and to assemble with those you love, to rekindle joy and love and family. Cuckoo to you, old bird, and Happy New Year, wherever you are.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on. soul's deep yearnings, like our forebears in their time. We seek out the Spirit's wholeness in the endless human quest. Look inside your soul, the kindling of the heart fire pilgrims new. Find the Spirit always restless, find it in each mind and heart. Touch and hold that ancient yearning, kindling for a new-found truth. Stand we now upon the threshold, facing futures yet unknown. Hearth behind us, wayside hostel, built by those who knew wild roads. Guard we ere their sacred embers, carried in our minds and hearts.
My sermon for January 9th, 2022 is entitled, Some Assembly Required on Becoming a Self. Like many folks nowadays, maybe just like you, I find blasts in my email inbox folder and my Instagram feed and my Facebook feed every single day from companies like Groupon, offering me discounts and offer codes for everything from Mexican dinners to pedicures to monogrammed iPod cases or customized wardrobe shipments or meal kits. So many meal kits. Now this week, as if reading my sermon writing mind, Groupon enticed me with this offer, 10 deals to mend broken resolutions. My dear, and it's only January 9th. Now, this offer included odorless e-cigarettes, more online meal planning from something called Keto Now. I wish I understood keto. Rocking body workout sessions, luggage, a resolution to travel, that would be nice. But my absolute favorite, Zagata weight loss hot pants. Well, I demurred. Yet, having bought Groupons in the past, I know that the fine print often includes a standard form with spaces for your name and age and address and such, and the following instructions must be completed prior to redemption. Okay, I am a sermonator, and this request has struck me as unintentionally amusing and even profound because I've detected a theological suggestion in this coupon caveat, must be completed prior to redemption. And I have found myself debating the truth of it in my head. Are we ever truly complete? Are we meant to be complete? How complete do we have to be for redemption according to our own standards or religious beliefs or society? And ultimately, really, how might we reframe our inherent incompleteness as a blessing rather than a deficit? And in doing so, embrace the process of spiritual growth as one of assembling and reassembling ourselves rather than one of pursuing perfection. If we begin with the Shel Silverstein story, The Missing Piece, we find that completeness or wholeness may not be what we had presumed, that stereotypical perfect package where all the components fit snugly and effortlessly together. In this fable for all ages, masquerading as a children's book, we roll along with our little Pac-Man pilgrim. You can see him here on the screen as it pursues the elusive missing piece that it presumes will offer a kind of redemption and happiness. The little minimalist minstrel sings this catchy little ditty as it rolls along. Oh, I'm looking for my missing piece. I'm looking for my missing piece. Hi ho, here I go. looking for my missing piece. Okay, it is hard to imagine us rolling along quite so merrily, singing any ditty, when we feel broken or incomplete or uncomfortably flawed or weary, understandably, from this 21-month pandemic reality. Hi ho, here we go. Not really likely. I'd reckon that it's far more likely that we are already in the grips of, can I keep my New Year's resolution angst? Or what will 2022 be like? Will it be just like 2021? We're not necessarily rolling merrily along. Perhaps we're anxious because we believe, or we've been led to believe, that we need to be one of the following: perfect, accomplished, or Oprahized to our best selves. So we seek redemption through often unattainable and self-defeating resolutions. Absurdly ambitious, but essentially worthwhile promises spring from our lips and our hearts as Anderson Cooper bellows out that countdown from Times Square. I'm never going to get angry at my spouse, children, friends, fellow congregants ever again. Or I will exercise every day for the rest of my life, do yoga or meditate every morning. I will be fluent in Swahili by Easter. No more carbs for me ever. I think that's part of the keto plan. Or the most open-ended and amorphous resolution of all, the easiest to keep and the easiest to break. I will be a better person, or at least I will try. We've been conditioned, I think, to believe that we do in fact need to be completed prior to redemption, regardless of whether that redemption comes in the form of relational love, societal acclaim, or theological salvation. In The Missing Piece, we learn, along with Silverstein's Zen-like creation, that we are only complete or whole as human beings when something is missing. For it is then that we allow a space that can be infused with the unexpected moments of holiness and the lessons that come from an imperfect, fully human life. For the purposes of this sermon, I ask that we consider the word holiness with all the splendid homonyms that present themselves. Holiness with an H, like the H in whole, and holiness with a W, like the W in the word whole, or complete, or full. When we understand holiness as some impossible standard of perfection, we miss the point. I like the idea of highlighting actually the whole in holiness, a space for searching and growing and assembling and reassembling our beliefs and values and ideals. Holiness understood as an opening for grace and self-acceptance and even appropriate resolve, or appropriate, healthy, self-loving, and not self-defeating intentions. Too often, though, I believe we want to fill up that space in a misguided quest for wholeness with a W that masks as a creeping underlying drive for perfection. The psychoanalyst Otto Rank calls this the disease of perfection and explains how a quest for what we commonly understand as perfection is really a quest of the ego, the smallest part of the self, and not the deeply spiritual quest of our higher selves. So simply put, perfection really relates to our ego and wholeness relates to our soul. Which would you rather nurture? Rank suggests, and I agree with him, that this tyrannizing drive for perfection has been passed on from one generation to the next in our culture, that this need becomes life-threatening, sick-making, and self-abusive. In my view, the pursuit of wholeness, with or without the W, it's about process and about integration, not about completion or perfection. If we cling to the notion that holiness is the same thing as perfection and not wholeness, We fall prey to shame or guilt or self-loathing when our revelations inevitably head south. On a personal and social level, on a physical and spiritual level, we miss the whole point of what our personal and communal pilgrimages are all about. It's helpful to remember that pilgrimage, in the most classic sense, has always been a challenge that takes the pilgrim in directions he or she or they didn't expect to go. For instance, in China, 1,500 years ago, it meant walking long distances in straw sandals, depending on alms for food, visiting teachers, and trying to settle what's known as the great matter. What is this? Who am I? How do I live a life that is impermanent? Given that life is impermanent, how do I live? What is this? And who am I? These are urgent questions when we come to have a strong sense of our own existence in the world and its finitude. When our mind is somehow turned from its preoccupation with acquiring material goods, acquiring knowledge, being the one who knows, being the one who's right, getting, improving, knowing, it's exhausting. As Stephen Batchelor argues in his book, Alone with Others, this horizontal dimension of having or getting, it just goes on and on and on. It's insatiable. There's just never enough. But sometimes something will turn or transform our attention to the deeper dimensions of being and holiness, where we will ask, what is it to be human, imperfect and incomplete? What is this life? How shall I intend to live now and also to seek? This becomes the great matter in a real, imperfect, ever-evolving world in 2022. As we often discover, despite Groupon's relative success in selling the prospect of achievable perfection, such an outcome doesn't hold up so well in the harsh light of reality. Life involves us humans who by definition are flawed, yet we're not alone. I wonder, have you ever seen a perfect tree, entirely symmetrical, with no flaws or brown leaves or deformities of any kind? Have you ever seen a perfect rock or beach or a perfect dog? Well, please don't tell my dog I said that. As a society, we are prone to lionize our leaders, cast them as mythic exemplars, and then understandably, we don't feel worthy to emulate them. Or on the other hand, as we've seen more recently, they fail miserably as the kind of exemplar we'd like them to be, and we are distressed and bewildered. The African-American scholar Cornel West has argued that, for example, Martin Luther King Jr. was a complex, flesh and blood flawed human being, and that he's harmed by his superhuman status. West writes that if you leave the impression that the only worthwhile changes are by those who were perfect, you cultivate the status quo by suggesting that those with human failings are unqualified, and this can dissuade everyone. West goes on to reflect that King's life and work is a powerful testament to what imperfect mortals can aspire to and achieve. A mentor of mine once quipped that a minister without a therapist needs to have their head examined. True that. I have had a variety of therapists over the years, none more effective and memorable than my last one in Pittsburgh, and then remotely from here for a while. Her name is Betsy, and she's retired now, alas, but the impact of our time together has been lasting and healing. Betsy's modality is something called internal family systems, or IFS for short, and I suspect one of the reasons it's so effective is that it speaks to something so fundamental about us incomplete, need to be assembled human beings, and that is that we are composed of parts. Not personalities, mind you, but parts that make up the whole, with or without the W. These parts take on important and specific roles in our functioning, even if we are not always aware of them, especially in assessing and processing the difficult bits, the traumas and losses and the places where we've been stuck. Our parts can show up in healthy ways and unhealthy ways, and they have all shown up for me. The manager, the firefighter, the mother, the wounded child, the exile. I make it sound simple, but like anything related to understanding the self, it is not. The goal of this therapy, this modality, is to align one's parts in a healthy alliance to forge something called self-leadership, to assemble oneself in a way that enables us to be healthy, whole, and self-leading. Betsy would say to me, let's call a town meeting of your parts and let them speak. It was transformative. Try it sometime. Call a town meeting of your parts and listen for some truth-telling, some joy, and some pain. At times during these sessions, my life resembled Robert Fulghum's funky clock from the reading earlier that's all kook and no ooh. It didn't seem fair because I thought I had all those simulated wood pieces fairly well assembled, and the darn thing should work, shouldn't it? And eventually it did. I'm guessing that many of us have had an experience of interacting with or living with a perfectionist, someone who is deathly afraid of making mistakes or acknowledging incompleteness, and who judges themselves and others harshly when inevitable mistakes occur. Mistakes will be made. We are human. It may be someone in your family, someone you work with, someone you serve on a committee with. Maybe it's you. I wince now at the memory of how I charged through a self-defeating, perfectionistic, forced march for a decade in my 30s. What I've discovered is that this type of operating in the world and in relationships is destructive, futile, and only causes misery. It certainly will never lead to any form of redemption or transcendent harmony. At this point, for me, many years later, the goal is not an A+ life. If I can sustain a solid B or even a passing grade on most days, well, that is truly good enough for me. If I can align my parts with self-compassion and integrity that leads to self-leadership, then that is redemption. I believe that when we cultivate honesty about ourselves, forgive ourselves, resolve appropriately, make good intentions and act with good intentions, and allow ourselves to grapple with our imperfection and incompleteness, our lives actually improve. Our self-esteem may be strengthened. Our relationships will most definitely benefit. So I ask you to join me today in resolving to create an opening for holiness and authenticity and for living in the messy moment. As we do this individually and together in beloved community, we will discover things about ourselves, about our inner resilience, our sense of humor, our integrity, our flexibility, our genuine convictions, and our faith for good and for ill. We bring our parts, we can bring our parts into a supportive alliance with one another. Let's not waste those moments, especially now when the clock only goes ooh or only goes kook, by glossing over, denying, avoiding, or neglecting their message. Many jagged or smooth or misshapen pieces may become lodged in that space we've left faithfully and courageously open. Illness, divorce, loss, boredom, joy, success, uncertainty, amazement, fear, loneliness, and wonder. Mistakes will be made. The imperfect life is inevitable. Growth is always optional. Knowing that, are you willing to keep on rolling with a dynamic hope, come what may? Are you ready to bid farewell to rigid resolutions and allow yourself to be surprised by some sloppier meanderings? If so, venture forth, be incomplete and utterly redeemable through your kindness and your authenticity, rather than because of your accomplishments or your possessions or even your opinions. Pursue improvement without illusions. Remember that joy and sorrow, success and failure are ever woven fine together. So keep your inner toolbox at the ready for assembling and reassembling your parts with humility and humor, and stow those extra pieces in a catch-all drawer for some other time. Sing your soul out, hidey-ho, or laugh it up to the wind. Cultivate curiosity, chat with a butterfly, ask, how shall I manifest this one wild and precious life now? Because there are, 356 days remaining until the ball drops again, and that yearly resolution twitch comes once more. In the meantime, skip the Groupon hot pants and create an intention as best you can to be moderate in all things. All things, that is, but compassion for yourself and for those precious pilgrims who roll along beside you, missing pieces and all. So may it be, blessed we, and amen. The spirit of generosity and gratitude flows through Beacon. Every week, we give and receive an offering to support Beacon, our programs, our building, our staff, and to support community partners in Flagstaff. So I invite you now to make an offering. You can do that two ways. You can go to our website, www.beaconuu.com, find the donate button, and make a secure online donation through the Venco application. And if you use this method, we ask that you use a bank account rather than a debit card to save us on some fees. Or you can send us a check with offering or donation in the note to Beacon at 510 North LaRue Street, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001. Either way, we are so grateful for your support, particularly at this challenging time.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We're all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We're all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
And finally, at the end of our service, when we meet here in person, we face one another and we hold hands, or perhaps more recently, we don't hold hands. And we feel the love and the strength and the connection of the community. We do invite you to join us for worship at 510 North LaRue Street. Currently, we are asking that people who attend wear masks and sanitize their hands, not have any COVID symptoms, and show us some documentation of vaccination. This is not meant to be a judgment of people's personal health decisions, but rather an institutional policy to protect the community as a whole. So until we see you, whether here or in person on North LaRue Street, let us remember that whether we are together or apart, we are Beacon, always connected. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.